What's good, my lady community? Welcome back to another lovely, beautiful, sexy, amazing video with the equally lovely, equally beautiful, equally sexy, and equally amazing LiTTyENT. I already know what time it is. Now let's go. Sorry guys, I was ill for quite a long time, but I'm back now. I'm fully refreshed, and trust me, we've got a lot of F3 to discuss today. Now guys, in today's video, we're going to be discussing whether or not UK rappers still need to perform at unis in order to become successful. And by unis, I mean universities, for those who are, not cool with the lingo. And we're going to break this down in way more detail, but already know what you gotta do. You just gotta like, comment, subscribe to be up to date and drop a banger like this one, and hit that note because you ain't in the East. You can be the first to know one of these videos comes out. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now guys, the title and topic for this video came about from a recent tweet by Mimi the music blogger, who said, and I quote, "I don't know why upcoming artists are not connecting with the uni scene. This is how you build an authentic fan base, not just social media engagement, rather real life. When Notes, Tion Wayne and Stormzy first started their careers, they would go to uni raves. Deep, only time that age group see their faves is during festival season or shows. If I was C China, Strands, Len or Chai Cartier, I think I would be securing that audience ASAP." Now, I think there's two ways to look at this statement right here. What she's saying does have some credence to it, I'm not gonna lie, because of course, rappers like Stormzy, Tion Wayne and J Hus, they did do their rounds in the uni motives back in the day, and yes, they were successful in that arena to some degree, of course, no pun intended. I mean, of course, even Heady One had his infamous moment in uni where he got caught lacking and got attacked, but it did lead to the song No Better being created, which pretty much catapulted his career to new heights. And I even remember going to some uni motive and Abracadabra was there and he shut the whole place down with Done Talking and Robbery, that's what it was. So the whole concept of uni motives and catering to that audience can't be or shouldn't be directly dismissed out of hand. However, I don't think Mimi is really able to comprehend the shift in music culture that has happened over the last couple of years. And I'm going to break down exactly why this isn't a viable solution anymore. Number one, the music era has changed. So let's look at the examples that she mentioned. She said Notes, Tion Wayne and Stormzy. All of the aforementioned rappers blew up between 2015 to 2017, let's say, for Notes as well. There's actually a video out there of Stormzy performing at the University of Bradford in 2015, and at that time, the market share for UK music was so much lower than it is now. At that time, you'd be lucky to even chart on the UK singles chart, never mind getting top 10s and getting number 1s like they're doing now. I mean, let's really deep it. Like, the music distribution giants that we've all come to know and love, like TikTok, all that stuff was non-existent back in 2015. IG Reels wasn't even a thing. Putting music on your Instagram stories wasn't even a thing. In fact, Instagram stories in itself wasn't even a thing back then. Spotify wasn't big back in 2015, or not as big as it is now. Apple Music was just at the precipice of blowing up. I mean, Snapchat still lasted 10 seconds back in 2015. I don't think she remembers how different of an era it was back in 2015. I think at that time you kind of had to be at these uni motives to get your name out there and be, I don't like to use this term, but to be certified in the streets, I would say, because I think at that time, let's be real, for a lot of artists, that's how most of them were popping off. They got accepted in the streets first and they were blowing up in their hood, in their local area, and then they kind of got the motion to be pushed more to the mainstream, I would say. This is a time where GRM Daily and SBTV, they're like the gatekeepers of bringing new people in. It's the time where rappers were dropping songs with YouTube videos consistently because that was one of the most booming ways to distribute your music at that time. Mimi also mentioned that audiences that have seen you invest will invest back when it's album time. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that's just a load of shit. Like, you can't lie, that's just a load of cap. Half the people she named on this list aren't even popping anymore, so I think that's an irrelevant point. No disrespect, but that's your cap in there. Kojo Funds, Young Bane, Notes, Mostak, they all fell off years ago. Nobody's invested in them when it's their album time. Mostak dropped an album in 2021 and it went triple gingerbread. No one was listening to that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
So clearly no one is invested in them. These albums go triple Marmite on the UK albums chart when they drop. I'm so sorry to say. Hus, Stormzy and Tion are really the only viable examples in that arena, and I'll get to them in a second. But yeah, if we fast forward to modern times, with all the different ways available for people to find and access music, the ever-expanding lockhold TikTok has on the music scene right now, people are charting huge in the UK without ever having to do these, uni events. I mean, she mentioned Strands as a potential potential person to start going to the uni crowd. Strands just had the second highest selling single in the UK last year, behind Dave and Central C's Sprinter, all without having to even touch a lecture hall. So I'm not gonna lie, if I was Strands, I'd be thinking safe. I'm not doing that. I can't lie. I'd be thinking I'm too big for that. And back in 2015, that would have been unheard of. But as I said, now with all of the different ways to market yourself, it no longer is. And I mean, the other people she mentioned on this list, I said this on Instagram, but if I was at uni and they said that C China was performing, I'm not gonna lie, I'm staying in my room. I got assignments due tomorrow. What are you talking about? I got 9 a.m. lectures.
You're taking the piss. Please leave.
Talking about see China. I can see China on Google Maps. You know what I mean? I can see China watching the Karate Kid, the Jaden Smith version. My second point is that the kids are the main consumers of this music. Another thing that Mimi is failing to realize is that it's not really the uni crowd that is dictating the landscape of music anymore. It's really the kids. I think all the biggest stars who've rose to prominence in recent years, the Central C's, the Daves, the Tions, the Russes, the Stormzys, it's because their music has now begun to appeal to the younger generation. I'm sure Body went #1 because kids were probably going through primary school saying English girl named Fiona, and
that's not the way you sing that song, man.
And saying, have you seen the state of her body? And Central C's Doja popped off because I'm sure there were kids going into school saying, how can I be homophobic? My bitch is gay every day, non-stop. And Tion Wayne, sure, when kids were going into school and teachers asked them a question, they were saying, I don't know. I'm telling you, this is how it's working right now. Which again, I think is because we've moved more into the digital age. Kids are now getting phones at a much younger age. Parents are putting their kids on their Spotify family plans and things like that. YouTube is of course still available, and of course kids are on TikTok all day, every day. Kids are a huge determining factor into how successful an artist can become nowadays. I mean, let's be real. Do you think it was uni students or kids who ran up the streams on Sprinter to 580 million? My money's on the kids. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's true. Now let's go back to my nigga on the floor.
And this is partly why I think the Afro swing scene flourished in the way that it did. It appealed to the kids. They had catchy songs. Nothing was really too violent. Kids could easily access these songs on YouTube because the Afro swing era really prioritized pretty much every song having a fire music video to some degree. I think the final point that we have to consider is that the demand for young emerging talent is just not there. Let's be real. The UK music scene at this moment in time is very much no one cares about you till you're popping. Like, let's be real, no one cares about the upcoming artists, quote unquote. No one cares about that guy or girl who's on the come up, who's next up, who's underrated. Those days are long gone. The days of you drip feeding tunes and slowly building up a fan base till you get that one major commercial mainstream hit and then people are like, oh yeah, I've known about him for years, where have you been, blah blah blah. Like, nah, that don't happen anymore. Not in the UK, as I don't think. Maybe you guys know someone who it did happen for, but I'm trying to think at the top of my head who's really followed that path, and no one's come to mind. And again, if I take a look at all the people who've blown up in recent years, none have followed that method. The Central C's, the RDs, the H's, these are all people who went viral and they just ran with it and kept dropping bangers until they cemented themselves in the scene. And I'm sure there's going to be some Centr, RD, HD riders who are going to be like, oh, but they were dropping music before, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure they were. But I think the general population won't be able to tell you a deep cut Central C song, a deep cut RD song, or a deep cut H song. If you ask the general population, gun to the back of your head, name an RD song that came out before 2021. Well, in the words of Bruce, drop him off.
You're dying. You're literally dying. You're dead. On God, you're dead.
But yeah, these people didn't have no real backdrop of music or a backdrop of loyal fans to back them as they fought their way to the top. They just went viral and they built their fan base along the way. That's the new way to do it now, I think. And another point that I'd like to add on just on the end is look at the top 20 highest selling songs in the UK for 2023. Only 30% of the songs on here were even released in 2023. And Dave literally makes up nearly 50% of the list, with Central C making up roughly the other 30%. So the room for new artists to grow, is it even really there like it was back in the day? Like, this list kind of shows that people got their favorites in the UK right now and they're just sticking to them, and that's just it. It's sad, I wish it wasn't like that, but the market share in the UK is just not as big as it is in America. Like, it's just not, and we just have to accept it. But yeah, in the words of Heady One,
it's a bit of a sticky one still.
But let me know if you think about this in the comment section down below. What do you think about the points I've made today? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, become a subscriber on the road to 2,000 subs. You already know what time it is. You'll find my personal IG at theomalittyent. If you care about what I do, I'm not making these bangers for you. I post updates on Twitter as well, so you might as well follow me on there. I bet. Peace.